Hello and welcome to Lost in Sci-Fi and Fantasy. I'm your host Leo, and today we're actually going to be talking about Super Mario Brothers, the one from the 90s, because I haven't really had time to watch anything else this week. My plan was actually kind of jumping around this week, I'll be honest. So last week at the end of the episode I said, I was thinking about watching Annihilation. Or I said that in one of the episodes. I said it at some point, I'm pretty sure. But I said I was going to watch Annihilation because I was interested in it. And then I saw that 65 was also available to watch. And I was like, I kind of want to watch and talk about 65. So maybe I'll, sit down and watch that. And then I didn't because the week flew by faster than I would have expected. And all I had watched was the original Super Mario Brothers movie. So, here we are. And, yeah. So there's that. So, to be fair, I have also been wanting to watch the original Super Mario Brothers movie, and I figured I might end up talking about it eventually. I do love bad video game movies. I like good video game movies too, but, most of them end up bad. And I just like them. I like to collect them. And yeah, so I ended up watching it. So we'll go ahead and talk about it as well. So something I wanted to talk about as part of this is slightly I won't go too much into it because I still want to talk about the newer Mario Brothers, but I do want to talk about the similarities between the two movies. There's not as much as you might think, but yeah. And I do still want to talk about the newer one at some point, but we'll take that and set it aside for now. And just kind of put it over there. Well, actually, kind of. Because let's talk about the similarities now, I guess. So I'll go over it by just kind of relaying what I deem to be the kind of similar through line, while basically just doing a very vague story recap that kind of vaguely recaps both in a way. I know it's a bit awkward, but yeah, let's do it that way. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants like I normally do, but a little bit extra this time, so please bear with me. So, the movie follows, of course, the Mario Brothers, Mario and Luigi, as they are struggling with their plumbing business, and struggling to keep their plumbing business afloat. They, at some point, end up in like a weird underground sewer/subway tunnel situation, and end up in another world. And during this time in another world, they are looking for someone, and they get to know the world and meet a bunch of unlikely allies and whatnot. Then, in the climax of the film, the two worlds start to kind of merge, but don't. And then the Mario Brothers are deemed heroes in both worlds. That's the very basic, simple through line that kind of joins the two movies together. But otherwise, one does not at all take the source material seriously, and one takes it maybe a little too seriously. Well, again, still, it's weird. Again, take that. We'll put that aside. So, the 90s Mario Brothers is something. It is definitely something. It just kind of takes its own thing and runs with it, while just kind of sprinkling some Mario Brothers in there. Now, the director's excuse for all the changes that he made, and we will get into all the changes that he's made, is that what he was trying to go for when writing or when making the movie was that this was the real story and the video games were like the weird messed up adaptation that got things wrong. And yeah, sure, I guess you could say that, but it's still not a very good movie. Let's go ahead and start dissecting it a little bit. I don't really have much history with this film to start off. I don't have much history. I've seen some reviews on it. I've seen some clips of it, but I'd never like properly seen the film until like yesterday. So yeah, it's a lot more bonkers than I thought. The movie opens with a weird animated sequence in which it's supposed to be like Brooklyn 65 million years ago. There's a voiceover from Mario talking about the dinosaurs and how a meteor hit the Earth and wiped them out. But what if they didn't get wiped out? Question mark. Leave it hanging in the air for suspense. Then it cuts to 20 years ago in Brooklyn, where we're following a woman carrying a thing as she goes to a church to drop off the baby, or well, the egg thing chamber with a rock in it. And she like knocks on the door and then leaves. The first thing that came to mind when I saw this scene was, oh, this is like the exact same opening as Meet the Robinsons. That's funny. But then it changes. The nuns bring in the egg. The woman retreats into the sewer subway and is confronted by a guy. She blocks him off and then like hollers to the sky. And then it cuts back to the nuns where the egg hatches and out is a little baby girl. And the nuns are super confused. Cut to 20 years later, we are following the Mario brothers. Luigi's watching a conspiracy thing on TV, and Mario is just kind of hanging about. He gets a call that's like, oh, they have a broken, I think, dishwasher. It's like, good, this is our time, we can finally get some work, let's go. So they pack up, go, but find that the job's been scalped by this big corporation plumbing business, which I do find it a little bit odd that the way that plumbing seems to work in New York is that the call goes out to everyone, and then anyone can respond, I guess. Instead of someone calling a very specific plumbing service and be like, okay, please come plumb my house. I don't know. It's weird. Then we go, like, after they miss the job, we cut to a paleontology dig site in the middle of Brooklyn, where the guy who owns that plumbing business, who I guess also just general construction, he is trying to get the paleontology site to clear out. And he uses a vague threat of women disappearing, making it seem like he's the one that's making them disappear, but he isn't. He just uses it as like a vague threat, I guess, because it's convenient. So she storms off to try and find a phone, because it's the 90s and they don't have cell phones, so that's annoying and sad to think about. But yeah, so she goes off to find a phone, and it just so happens to be the phone that Luigi's using to call their answering machine to see if they have any messages. They do have a message, but he's so enraptured by who we find out is Daisy. He's so enraptured by Daisy that he like just hangs up on a job, a potential job, and lets her take the phone. She's trying to call the university to get more security down to the site, but the university isn't really budging. So Mario and Luigi give her a lift back to the paleontology site. He asks her out to dinner. She says yes. They go out to dinner. And then around this time, we're also following Iggy and Spike, who are just kind of trailing them. They've been sent by Bowser to pick up the princess, who turns out to be Daisy. And what they have... The reason that women have been disappearing is that Iggy and Spike just grabbed random women, because I'm guessing the description that they were given was extremely vague. So they just kept grabbing random women off the street in Brooklyn. So yeah. They do that again. They kidnap Mario's girlfriend, who's I think named Diane in this. They kidnap Mario's girlfriend after he leaves. Then Luigi and Daisy go back to the paleontology site because he's like, oh, I'm actually interested in what you're doing. It seems cool. So they race there for some reason. Get there, go in, and she shows him the site. And it's like these dinosaurs with extremely like cartoony monster teeth. And supposedly they have opposable thumbs as if they're dinosaurs trying to be human. As if it's like a evolutionary transition situation. And it's a bit weird. And I'm also, because this is like the same spot that her mom was at. At least, unless it might just be that they reused the set, maybe. But it's also technically around that area is like the entrance to the other world. So theoretically, it's possible that the bones there might be her mom or something. I don't know. It's never explained properly what's going on in a lot of these things. And a lot of things just aren't consistent from one thing to another. So yeah, let's continue. So they go down, look at the site, and just as they're like looking at it, two plumbers come rushing out of a room as water comes spewing out of it, because there's just like a room with pipes next to it, to the site, and are flooding the site. So Luigi runs all the way home, gets Mario, comes back, and then they fix the pipes. It's like, cool, plumbing montage, I guess. While they're busy fixing the pipes, Iggy and Spike come back and like, oh man, we messed up. Oh, wait, there she is. Grab her and leave. Mario and Luigi then chase after them, go into the new world, and the new world is like just a grimy cyberpunk city, I guess, where the cars that they have are powered like trams. So they have like an electricity like rake, I think it's called, that pops up from the roof and like scrapes along electric wires to power the cars. I guess intermittently, because they don't need it all the time, I guess. But neat concept, I guess. And pretty much from here, they try to chase down Daisy, but they run into some issues, of course. Where they got the stone from Daisy as she was being pulled through the portal, I guess. They get the stone, but then they lose the stone to just a random woman who like just flies away on these jump boots that are so weird. But she leaves, and so but they continue their mission of trying to get to Daisy, but Bowser puts out a bounty on them. They get arrested. They break out of prison, steal a cop car. While in the prison, they actually have a conversation with Bowser. Not Bowser, sorry. In this, he's called just Koopa, King Koopa. Which, fair enough, like, in the first Mario game, he was named King Koopa, so it's fine. But that's just the general confusion sometimes, but he's essentially Bowser. But, yeah, so they talk to him, and he's like, "Where's the stone?" And they're like, "What? we don't know what you're talking about." Because even it's like such a minor thing to them that they just don't think about, like, okay, especially since instead of just saying, "Where's the stone?" he's like, "Where's the meteorite?" And they're like, "What meteorite? What do you mean?" So then he gets all angry, de-evolves Toad into a Goomba. The Goombas are famously terrible. They're just like these tiny-headed things with huge bodies and whatnot, and for some reason they give the Toad Goomba a harmonica for reasons, so that you can tell which one he is, I guess. Even though they make it very obvious which one he is through his actions later on. So, anywho. But yeah, so they escape the prison. They end up in the desert. As a response, Bowser takes his de-evolution machine and turns it to advanced, so to evolve them, and evolves Iggy and Spike, which just makes them really smart, I guess, or it makes them at least eloquent. And they leave to go find the Mario Brothers. They do. In which they get stuck in quicksand. The Mario Brothers pull them out, tie them up, try to get information, offer to give them the stone in exchange for Daisy. And then they just completely switch allegiances at this point. To where they're like, yeah, let's take down Bowser. And then when they run into Daisy. When they run into Daisy, they say, "Oh, we've been a staunch supporter of your dad since forever. Like, we're all for you and your revolution, I guess." Her dad, as it turns out, was turned into a fungus, which is not explained as to why he was theoretically an evolved form of a fungus. Because everyone in this world is supposed to be evolved from dinosaurs. And even then, things get a bit shaky because some of the reptiles that the Goombas are like snake-headed people that they're just like snakes. I don't know. It's so weird, the choices that they made. But yeah, so her dad was a fungus and now is a fungus that's been spreading around the city, like just taking it over. And it's a bit of an issue, I guess, in the city. Though he is a sentient fungus, so there is that. The Mario Brothers work their way back in. They turn off the heating. That comes up barely. Because the idea behind them turning off the heating, you would think, is because, they're cold-blooded, even though dinosaurs weren't. They're cold-blooded, so they would go into hibernation. Nope, just doesn't come into play. The only thing it comes into play for is later is they made an ice chute and they slide down it. And that's it. Besides a couple of mentions of, ooh, it's getting cold. That's it. It's just, ooh, we made an ice chute and we shall use it to escape. Whatever. But yeah, so through a series of events, they meet back up with Daisy. They go to escape, but Mario goes back to save the missing Brooklyn women, and he uses said ice chute to help them break out. they send them back through, and then they get into a fight with Koopa, sorry. They get in a fight with Koopa, and during all this, Koopa's second in command, this random woman, I think named Joanne or something, is trying to take the crystal or the meteor shard or whatever and rejoin it, but she's not powerful enough and gets blasted into a wall as a skeleton. And so Daisy and Luigi have to work to try and pull the crystal out. But since the crystal's in, the worlds start merging, and they merge in like the mildest way to start. It's just Bowser and Mario only. Well, Bowser and Mario are teleported. Then the Twin Towers turn into the Bowser's Tower. It's like Koopa's Tower. I keep thinking Bowser because that's the one that we've come to know. It's like Robotnik / Eggman. Everyone calls him like Eggman mostly. Anyway, moving on. So the Twin Towers are replaced with Koopa's Tower, and Mario and King Koopa end up at the dig site, where the saved women are talking to them. He has like a mild interaction, like King Koopa turns the business guy who's trying to, shut down the dig site into a monkey. You get the famous monkey line, and then they teleport back. And all this time, a little bomb has been working its way around. Then Mario and Luigi shoot King Koopa or President Koopa is actually what he is. They shoot him with the de-evolution gun. He starts de-evolving into a T-Rex, but then he gets blown up by the bomb, and then they just continue to de-evolve him into goo, into primordial ooze. And they go home. They're celebrated as heroes. It's like 3 weeks later or something like that. And they're celebrated as heroes and everything. Then Daisy comes in with one of the guns and like tore up clothes and says, I need your guys' help. And they suit up to get ready to go, and then credits. It's a sequel tease for the sake of a sequel tease because it's never getting a sequel. But yeah, so that's the movie. Though there was one surprise that I did not know. One surprise that I didn't know was in the film was that there's actually a proper post-credit scene. Whenever I heard anyone talking about a post-credit scene, I heard them talking about the Daisy thing, where she comes in and is like, oh, I need your help. But there's actually a proper post-credit scene in this film where there's two Japanese businessmen saying that they want to turn their stories into a video game. And it turns out they're talking to Iggy and Spike, and they're talking about how they want it to be like I don't know, they're just kind of going through some title suggestions. But yeah, I'd never heard of that post-credit scene before, and I found that very fun. But yeah, so that's the movie. It's really weird, but if you're willing to turn off your brain, it's really fun as well. Though there's a lot of inconsistencies that annoy me. So some inconsistencies that annoy me. Supposedly, the cop cars don't have brakes. Except for the one time they do. So, and I'm guessing all of the cars aren't supposed to have brakes. Is what's implied by the fact that cars constantly crash into each other. But like the police cars, as they're coming into the station, they use like aircraft carrier brake lines, the ones that come up and a hook catches it to slow down the jets as they land. They use that for their cars. Now, they don't have brakes then, and they don't have brakes later when Mario and Luigi are going through the tunnel. And he's like, hit the brakes. And he's like, I can't. There are no brakes. Except when they're in the car chase, like just a little bit earlier, they hit the brakes to stop or like to slow down so that the two cop cars shoot at each other and destroy each other. So that was a lie. And then later in the movie, when near the end, when the bomb's making its way across a street, a car sees it and hits the brakes. So it's like, okay, so do cars have brakes or do they not? Choose. Pick one. And then there's like the slight inconsistency of whether or not the jump boots need charges. At one point they do, at another they don't. It's a bit inconsistent. The mushrooms are able, that they come across, are just kind of able to do random ass things sometimes. Like, it grows to be a shield for Mario when he gets shot at by King Koopa or President Koopa. So yeah, that's a bit odd. Then there's the, I guess you could say, misuse of iconic Mario things. So the bomb's fine. I mean, it's extremely tiny. And for some reason, they decided to put product placement on the bottom of its feet for Reeboks, which I found funny. But the bomb overall is fine. But bullet bills, the design of bullet bills are used as the charges for the jump boots, I think. It's not very consistent. Then there's some signs around, and one of them is like bullet bill for like a store. Then there's also one for thwomp. It just says thwomp and leaves it at that. Toad's just a guy, which is annoying. Yoshi is okay. I mean, I like the little puppet, but he's very small. He is also very small. The age difference between Mario and Luigi is also weird, and what their relationship is confusing. So Luigi's an orphan, according to Luigi, and Mario has raised him his entire life, like a father, mother, brother, all in one. But he does, like, so did Mario adopt him? Did Mario's dad adopt him? And like when he was like 20? I don't know. But yeah, it's weird. Then of course this is where famously the name Mario and Luigi Mario became canon and popular. And it's still fun to think about that's probably actually their names. That's fun. Bob Hoskins famously hated this film. Supposedly he was extremely drunk on set. But he was stuck because I believe he was doing it for his kid. He's like, oh, I'll do it. My kid likes the game, so I'll do it. But once he actually started filming it and everything, he hated it. He absolutely hated it. But he was contractually obligated to stay on. So he just got drunk most of the time. But overall, his character's probably the best one of the film, I will say. I think that's pretty much it that I can think of. Anywho, would I recommend this movie? No, if you want a good Mario movie, but if you, like me, really enjoy bad video game movies and whatnot, yeah, give it a shot. It's dumb fun. You can turn off your brain and enjoy it. But yeah, I will leave it there. It's decently available on DVD currently, so if you want to grab it for relatively cheap, knock yourself out. It's a dumb, weird trip that's always fun to see with how Hollywood used to try to adapt video games. With that said, let us go ahead and transition over into the update, which will be recorded separately this week in a couple of days when I go to edit this. Because I still need to finish the book. Anyway, let's get you on over to there. Okay, update time, yay! So, as kind of alluded to previously, I have been I kind of dropped the ball this week a bit. Oopsies. So I do come bearing excuses as to why I have not finished the second Trials of Apollo book yet. The Dark Prophecy? Yeah, the Dark Prophecy. And that's I burned myself out, to be completely honest, pulling the miraculous 2-day reading of the first book, as well as the rushed catch up in order to be able to do the 2-day push on the first book. Yeah, it took a lot out of me to do that, but it's not nearly as bad as it was with the Red Pyramid. The Red Pyramid, I was almost nowhere near finishing the book when I had a similar situation. This time I'm getting quite close to the end. I will spend probably a good chunk of the rest of today, because it's currently around my editing time, so I should technically be editing the episode right now, but I'm recording the update. Because I tried to push it as late as I could to get as far as I can. I didn't quite hit the goal I wanted to before I recorded, but I need to get recording and editing if I want to get the episode out on time. As it is, I realized a little bit late that I'm neglecting editing and recording different things, so that's fun. It's layered procrastination, I guess you could say. That's pretty much it. That's kind of why I've been having this issue. So what am I going to do to fix said issue? You might be asking. Well, I'm going to push pretty much the rest of the day to get as far as I can, and then tomorrow I'll finish the book. So I'll be half a day off, which isn't the worst, but it is still falling behind. Then from there I will read to my first little personal checkpoint in the next book, and from there I will continue to work on making progress. I also tomorrow have to see about recording as much as I can of the rest of Republic Heroes, so that I can properly get that finished. Because we are quite close to the end, and I'm thinking of doing 2 big episodes to finish off that series. We shall see. As for other minor updates, before I get into how I feel about the story and whatnot, actually, no, let's do the story first. We'll do the story first, and then I'll do more channel updatey stuff. So, story-wise, it's fine. It feels kind of like they took the characters' personalities and set them back a bit, to reset them a little bit, so that they can once again try to make more progress. I feel like Rick Riordan looked and was like, I made Apollo slightly too likable by the end of his book, so let's reset that a bit and have him work once again into becoming a bit more of a better person. And I do fear that that's going to be a similar thing that's going to happen. It's going to be a 2 steps forward, 1 step back situation every single time. But, Another thing that I noticed as a fun little thing is that it seems to be a series of smaller journeys, which I like. I kind of like the idea of that. The first one was set almost exclusively at Camp Half-Blood, and this one was set exclusively in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I like that. I kind of like the fact that it's very small. They only journey out for like specific things. They don't leave the city or anything. It's all within the area, and I like that. That's fun. I'm enjoying that. Though it does make the story feel oddly rushed and awkward because there's 6 weeks between the first book and this book, and a lot of stuff happened in those 6 weeks, but we don't get to see what happened in those 6 weeks. So the book literally starts with them landing in Indianapolis, and then the book goes from there, and they're in Indianapolis the entire time. So, fun. Yeah, the other character, they seem to have tweaked Leo a bit, because Apollo's main companions for this book, which I think is really fun, are Leo and Calypso. They joined him to go on this journey, and each time they have to go out, it kind of switches who he's going with. So his first little mission outside of the way station, he had to take Calypso. Then she got injured. Well, no, she got exhausted because she used some magic and was brought back to the way station. And the next mission, it was Leo that went with him, and Meg, because Meg makes a return. And there's a big question around Meg as to whether or not she can be trusted, but at the same time, they don't ask that question, really. They ask it a little bit, but not nearly as much as you think they would. But yeah, I do like the fact that there's a lot more kind of flashbacks going into like Apollo's connection to the villain of this book. That's fun. But yeah, I just had a lot of trouble getting into the book, partially because of my just kind of exhaustion with reading that held out for a little while too long. Some events happening just around the same time I was trying to read. And just the general feel of the beginning of this book doesn't quite hit the way I was hoping it would. Because again, they took Apollo's progress and kind of reset it a little bit. Not fully, but a little bit. And made it to where he had to kind of continue going. And this time he doesn't make quite as much growth by the end of the book. I think it's because he was like, oh yeah, we do have more books for him to grow in. But he still does grow a bit in the book, so that's good. Let's see. Yeah, but then something that annoyed me is that every 5 pages or so, he mentions Meg in the early part of the book, and it gets really annoying when you're just trying to focus and read, and you're like, okay, and then Meg, okay, sure, but then Meg, right, don't forget Meg. It's like, okay, dude, I get it. You miss Meg, you're sad. Move on. You have other things to focus on. But yeah, it's fine. Then the bickering between him and Calypso for almost no real reason, really. I mean, from Calypso's point of view, sure. But from Apollo's point of view, nah. Why is he stoking the fire for no reason? He's just being a bit of a dick. But, yeah. And so far, I'm coming up to, the final big battle and whatnot that happens. And it's doing something kind of interesting. I mean, I have yet to actually get to the proper battle. But from the sounds of it, he's going to miss the final battle. He's not going to be there for the final battle because he has to go do a different thing. But it's probably going to be a similar thing to where he comes in at the last minute to be a hero, etc. We'll see. I don't know that for sure yet, but we'll see. But yeah, so things are going okay. It could be better, of course, but overall, it's going okay. I'll probably have to push a little extra hard on the next book, but I'm not going to push myself too hard because I don't want to burn myself out again immediately after. That would suck. But yeah, once I actually got back into the flow of reading this book again, it progressed pretty smoothly. So yeah. So this next week should be okay. I should hopefully finish the next book at a relatively good speed, hopefully finishing it around Thursday, Friday-ish. And then the book after that is going to be a little bit troublesome because there's a lot of stuff happening that week, but fingers crossed, it should also go decently smooth. I'll make sure to carve out some time to do that. So there's that. In channel and other stuff updates, because this kind of works as a decent position since I posted this on my YouTube channel, and it seems that the YouTube one version of the podcast gets a lot more views. People like the video versions, even though there's nothing going on in the videos. But yeah. Oh, one other thing real quick about the book. The timeline. I'll talk about this more in depth next week, because I feel like I'll have more time next week. But yeah, it's I'm confused about the Percy Jackson timeline. I'm working through it, but that was one of the big things that kept holding me up, because in this book there's a lot of 2016 specific references, because this book was written in 2016 and came out in 2017. And it's annoying because theoretically, if, say, the first Percy Jackson book was set in 2005 when it came out, this book is technically set in the winter of 2010, based off of, like, about how long things take. So, yeah, like, the winter before spring, the section of winter before spring in 2010, around January, February. So yeah, it's a bit weird, but also technically this is the book that has the strongest, like, time-specific references, I feel. So yeah, you can technically say that maybe this is what you could consider the anchoring point, and then you could rearrange it from there. Other things don't work, but we'll move on. We'll move on and save that for later. I'll go into a deeper discussion about the Percy Jackson timeline some other time. With that said, though, as for what's happening with the YouTube channel and whatnot, I'm going to be upping some of the stuff I do. Like I said, with the next Republic of Heroes episodes, I plan on making them a little bit longer to try to finish off the game in like the next 2 episodes or so, with any luck. By pretty much making them double episodes, because I'm getting a little bit tired of the game, and I don't want to have to make too many more thumbnails. Plus, there's only like a handful of levels left, so I'd rather move on through it. As for streaming, I did do a stream this past week. It's post-stream stuff has done decently well. I am going to stream more, and I'm going to stream more on topic-ish stuff, because this past stream was more of a test stream where I just played Battlefield, and it was fun. I had a good time. It was just a little bit of silly gameplay and whatnot. But this next time I am going to stream Dark Souls, but I'm also going to be streaming Mafia. So my plan is, one day this week I'll stream Dark Souls, another day I'll stream Mafia, and then I'm also going to stream some Final Fantasy XII. Because, well, I need to finish that game eventually. I have the stream archives, like, out there. I tried to do a stream, like, a year or two ago, and it did pretty well, but I didn't do it that long, and I was able to finally make progress, which was nice. But I do need to, play more of it. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to continue Dark Souls to try to beat the Taurus Demon. That's what I'm going to try to do this week. And I'm also going to continue Mafia, just to have some fun in Mafia. And then I'm going to play some Final Fantasy XII. To have 3 different, like, a decent variety. And then I'm going to try to keep that pattern going forward. I don't know exactly what days I'll stream those on, but we'll see. Then, of course, there'll be, like, the once-in-a-while streams with Nathan in which we'll play like GTA or something like that. But yeah, that's going to be what happens there. With that said, though, I think that's about it. We have the plan going forward. Yeah. Basically, I just need to try to not burn myself out again. It's going to be hard going forward, especially with, the next Caden Chronicles book. But I do have, I'll be eating up a lot of books in between now and then. So that should be fine. As long as I'm able to try to inch my way forward. I need to not try to make super huge leaps or anything like that. But inch myself forward to make progress and widen the gap so that when I do eventually hit a Caden Chronicles book, I have some shielding. Anyway, though, with that said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys liked this, please feel free to give it a like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Or if you're listening to the just plain old audio version of this on any podcast platform of your choice, please feel free to share, review it, tell your friends. It's a podcast. That's my review of it. It's a podcast. Next week, it's going to get complicated. So, as I said, I planned on doing Annihilation this week, but instead I ended up doing the 90s Mario. I also planned on doing 65, potentially, but instead I ended up doing the 90s Mario. I do plan on, potentially this week, watching both of those and recording episodes for them, but they're going to have to wait to be posted. Because next week I'm thinking about doing Barbie. The week after that is going to be Haunted Mansion. Then after that will be Annihilation and 65 at some point. But I do want to try to get them done this week so that I have them. But yeah, that's the kind of plan going forward. I'll probably see about locking in the order of things to keep my sanity here soon. But yeah, with that said, thank you guys so much for watching, listening, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Goodbye.